Hello, hello. I'm super excited about today because I've been using Splice for a long time, especially obsessed with their boots and claps sample packs. Whenever I have like groovy scores, I always go there to find some amazing audio. So I want to introduce you, Hadass, Josh, Drew, Catherine, and Max from Splice. And yeah, please take it away.
Great. Yeah, well, we're really excited to be here, and we're really excited to share a little bit about Splice and to invite more people into the Splice community. We can introduce ourselves, and then what we're going to do today is share a little bit about what Splice is and how it works and kind of the history of Splice, which is a global platform for musicians to create and collaborate. And then we're going to specifically talk about how that relates to the composing world and some of the work that we're doing to make it more useful for composers and people making music for visual media and apps and things like that. And we're also going to share some videos of some of this kind of special projects that we've had that we've created at Splice. So I'm the director of content innovation at Splice. So the team that I'm overseeing is figuring out ways to both expand what the Splice user is. So Splice has traditionally been, the sort of traditional Splice user has been more around creating popular music, and our team is working to expand it to all different types of creators. And we're also looking at ways to create new types of music and content. I don't love using the word content because I think what we're really talking about is art. But because we work in a business, there are certain terms that are defined. So I'll say that it's content that's really working with different artists to create different art that can be create different avenues of business, both for the creators and for Splice. So it's really an area of the business that's around expansion and seeing what's possible, and it's a really fun place to be because really the possibilities are limitless for where you can take something like Splice, and I think that's what we'll try to show a little bit later. So yeah, I'll pass it over to Hadass next if you want to just do a quick intro.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm excited that it's something that we spoke about a long time ago, and I'm excited that this day arrived. I'm a cellist and a singer and a composer. And my first encounter with Splice was, I think, right when I moved to New York with my husband. And I met Josh, and we created a Splice original cello pack. And that was kind of like my first encounter with creating my own pack and seeing like what is a sample and how to use it. And very fast I became a heavy user, and since we created, I think, more than 30 packs with my husband's label as well. And these days I'm collaborating with Splice as a consultant and as a musical producer with Josh to really dive more deep and expand how we can. I love that you said content is not like that, how we can create and create from a place of collaboration and create from a place of using everything we have to just create beautiful music. And I'm happy to be here.
Drew, do you want to do an intro?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Drew. I am a composer and music producer based here in LA. It's so good to see, a lot of familiar people on this call. SN and I have been friends for I think close to 10 years now. So it's so good to, have the AWFC community, sort of come together with the Splice here. So it's like two important words for me, colliding here. And I think one of the, so I work with Splice, again as a consultant and as a music producer with the team. Something that I am very happy and proud of when we're working, when we're making music with Splice and assets that are useful for music producers and composers, is that sort of diversity is at the very heart of everything. So, there is, at all times, we're trying to include different voices and different sounds from people from different places, people from different, who've lived different lives, so that all the music and sounds that there are sound different. And, artists are able to include those sounds into something that's already their sonic palette and change it and make it something truly unique. So yeah, I'm very excited for this collaboration and for this call for everyone to learn more about Splice. Thank you. Catherine?
Hi, I'm Catherine, and I'm newer to Splice, and it's been actually an amazing thing for me because I've heard of the company and knew of its involvement with samples, but I thought as well that it was a little bit more oriented to just popular music. And as I got to know Splice's diversity of art and collaboration that they are continuing to cultivate and expand, it became something that was really exciting for me. And I just recently have had the opportunity to come in and be a part of some longer form pieces and do some composition as well as writing harmonies and as well as singing on some things that are not just, I guess, what I thought of Splice as doing, more like the beats and, more popular music. So it's been a special thing to learn about the different cultures, musics that are a really important part of Splice, and also its collaboration with this alliance, and just the involvement that is really important to Splice has been a special thing to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm also a singer and composer, if I didn't mention that.
Max, do you want to do a quick intro too?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, I'm Max, Josh just mentioned. I'm working with Josh on the content innovation team as well. I'm a project manager. So I pretty much handle a lot of like the day-to-day stuff. And when it comes to connecting the dots between these different projects that we're exploring in the outside world, I'm the one who sort of make sure that there's a transition between our projects and cross-functionally across Splice, so that we're including what we're doing across the whole team, bringing it back to the business, and incorporating these new perspectives and that we're taking from our projects and injecting it into the Splice culture. I'm a producer and a DJ myself, and a huge music lover. Been using Splice for a long time, and I'm just a huge fan of taking lots of different diverse perspectives and influences in my own music. So I'm always trying to do things like that when it comes to Splice, is just share as many voices and different sounds as I can. Yeah, I'm really happy to have this audience with you all, because this is kind of like our first step into building a community here, and we hope that we can keep this going down the line. But Josh, I'll let you take it away and do your thing.
Great, yeah. So we're excited to meet all of you in the question and answer period. I think now maybe we'll just do a quick run through of how Splice works and some of the projects that we're working on. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'll do a couple different shares to show some of the different parts of the Splice platform. So at the core of Splice is the Splice website and online platform. And Splice really is a platform that provides a sort of comprehensive suite of tools to create music, and it's growing. And the platform includes Sounds, which is what most people think of when they think of Splice, because that's the area of Splice that has had the most kind of cultural impact, I think, at this point, in musical creative impact. And that's this massive library of sample packs and sounds that anybody can use royalty free in their productions. So every day we're releasing, multiple packs of new content created by some of the best producers, music producers and creators in the world. And people who have a Splice subscription get access to a certain number of sounds per month. And then kind of in the same way as like a streaming service or something like that, we collect all of that revenue from the Splice memberships and we pay it out to the creators. But what's different than a streaming service is that the payouts are actually quite significant for our creators because it's not at the same scale of user base, and we pay back millions of dollars to musicians every year. So a lot of musicians are finding that they're making hundreds of times more from their Splice pack than from the album that they released with the same material or similar material. So it's been a really interesting thing to be able to support musicians with a new revenue stream. And I think that's probably what I wanted to lead with, is that Splice has become, especially during the pandemic when people are stuck at home and can't be performing at studios, it's become a great way for the musician community to make a new revenue stream that is pretty significant for a lot of people. For a lot of our creators, it's their main source of income, and they're making six-figure incomes from their Splice packs. So it's an exciting opportunity for creators, and it's also just a really great ecosystem in general because it allows people to collaborate remotely on different projects. And so it's kind of this sort of open collaboration because all of the sounds are royalty free and can be used for anything. And the way that Splice is organized, there's sounds, there's also skills, which is something we just added to the platform, which is video lessons for our creators to learn how to produce and to get better at producing. So we have some of the best producers in the world showing people how to produce and mix and create music using samples. We also have like rent-to-own plugins, which gives people kind of the ability to utilize plugins when they need them for their productions, which we found has been really helpful and really successful for people. Oftentimes you just need, the right synth or reverb just for the project you're working on. You can rent it for 3 months or something. And then if you rent it for long enough, you own it if you've basically paid it off. And then where Splice really started originally was with Studio. So Studio and Community, these areas were original areas of Splice that were collaborative tools to allow people to upload their Ableton or Logic sessions and collaborate on versions of software, versions of projects with people remotely. And so that's a great way to provide feedback and connect. And so we're building that area out more. But as I mentioned at the beginning, the Sounds platform is really the key driver of most of the creative activity happening on Splice now. And the way that the Sounds platform is organized is by a searchable platform where you can search for a certain sound that you're looking for. And then we also have specific labels. The sample packs are organized into labels that have a certain genre. So for instance, there's Splice Originals, where it's all original content where we're going into the studio with creators and recording really great instrumentalists. And then when you go into a pack, packs are made up of loops and one-shots. So a loop is something obviously that's tempo-based that's meant to repeat in a track. And a one-shot is anything that's not tempo-based. We're gonna expand beyond those two different types of categories, but right now it's kind of those are the two main categorizations. And each pack has between 100 and up to a couple thousand samples. Most of the packs are kind of around 200 or 300 samples. And so when you go into a pack, you can preview the sounds and learn a little bit more about them. And then on a lot of the packs, there's actually a video component to them as well. So like if we go to check
Josh,
out.
if you want to go to Splice Explorers, the South India pack's got a really good video to it.
Great, yeah. So let's go over to the Splice. So Splice Explorers label is one that we started. This is one of the first labels where we decided that the concept was really to go a little bit deeper than what had traditionally been on Splice before, and really explore different sonic concepts. So we've done amazing projects, like we went to Iceland and recorded the sounds of glaciers creaking. So I think this is particularly cinematic. And then in a lot of the packs, we have these videos to kind of show the story behind it. But I'll just play like 30 seconds of this one so you can get a sense of how deep some of these sampling projects go beyond just traditional instrumentation. Share all these videos also after the meeting, all the links to these videos that we share, because some of them I'll only share a little bit of it to make sure that we can get through everything. But this was so fun. And when you then go to the pack, we have instruments made out of some of this. All of the stuff in the pack was recorded in the glacier. So we oftentimes what we'll do is take natural sounds and then process them using different effects and filters. So here are examples of a few of the sounds in this pack. So there's a lot of great textures and different sounds, and I think where we've kind of gone with Splice, with trying to expand, and we're talking about before content innovation, which I'm really thinking of like artistic creative innovation. They just continue to push the boundaries of these collaborations and these experiments. So I'll play another video that Max was just mentioning, a few seconds of this pack that that we had some creators who are from South India create some music and share some music with us from there as well. So yeah, I'll share that more too, but that was a really special project. Drew also did an amazing pack based on India sounds as well that we'll also share too. That was your first project with Splice, right?
A couple of years back.
Yeah. So we were trying more and more to tell the stories behind these packs because they are created by incredible musicians, and sometimes when you go to Splice and you just see a list of files with metadata next to them, you don't realize the care and attention that went into recording it, and sort of authenticity that went into recording a lot of these sounds. So the way Splice works now at this point is if you find a sound that you like, it could be a one shot or it could be something long. You can then use your credits to download it. So in this case, I'll use a credit there, then I'll use a credit here. And then you can either download the files directly from here or add them to a collection. But I think what really makes Splice powerful is the desktop app. So everyone who has Splice can download an app that lives on their computer. And at this point, I will stop the share here and I'll share the experience of the desktop app to show how you can build Splice into your creative flow. So So here's the Splice app, and everything that I've used the credit for will show here. You can also search the whole platform here as well. So those sounds that I just downloaded should show up at the top of the app here. Yep, so here are the two sounds that I just downloaded from Splice. And this will work with any DAW, but with, I'm gonna show with Ableton, you can just directly from the app, drag the sample into your session. And then you have your loop there. It'll match it with Ableton, at least, that matches it to the session already. So this is where it makes it really, I think, powerful for creators, and where Splice has really become a major tool for people to make music, is this kind of idea of putting the music producer or creator into a state of flow by allowing you to basically have this massive library of basically any sound that that you wanted to include into your production and have it at your fingertips. So like if we just search for, you know, rain or something like this, you know, all these samples will come up. If I haven't downloaded it yet, I can use a credit to download these. And then, you know, you can drag these textures in there. So there's more than just music. There's all sorts of Foley sounds and field recordings. So now we have this rain sound in here as well, going into the background of this track. And then, yeah, Hadass mentioned earlier that she did a cello pack, so we could drag in a cello sound as well, and see, it's just fun to experiment with different combinations of sounds. So yeah, I basically just wanted to show how easy it is to create with Splice, and just how fun it is. Really, for me, it's just fun, and it's not a replacement for going into the studio and recording unique custom music for scores or for anything else. It's really meant to be just another way to create, because at the end of the day, like if you're working on a film score, you're composing something, you know, you're going to want to make it as authentic and as high quality as possible. And that will probably include a combination of a lot of things now. It'll probably include kind of going into the studio and recording music for specifically cut to film, but it might also mean, you know, looking through the Splice library and finding really great field recordings or Foley sounds to augment what's already there. So, or it could be a great, you know, Splice can be a great scratch pad for coming up with these ideas. And it really, as a composer myself, I started my career in the music industry, composing for some independent films. Nothing too big, but I love the idea of composing and thinking about music as a way to really drive the emotion behind art, really. And Splice is a great tool for just being able to quickly dive into that process and have inspiration kind of laid out there for you, and for you to be able to go in so many different directions. So there's a lot more with Splice, and we're happy to like answer any questions and give much more of a demo. And as we mentioned before, we'll give everybody trial memberships to Splice, and if people want to dive in deeper, I'm happy, you know, any of us here are happy to kind of have more one-on-ones with how to use it and what there is to offer. But I think, you know, the main thing we wanted to do with this is just share kind of how Splice is working now, so everybody has a idea of how it could benefit them and all of you and your creations, either as just something fun to play with to come up with ideas, or as like a really powerful tool to add textures and sonic palette to the productions. But then we also wanted to talk a little bit about a specific project we're working on now, which we're really excited about, because it kind of ties everything together with this group, where I think we can all really collaborate together. And that's with really making Splice a home for composers. And Splice is growing very quickly and has become a household name for popular music creators, as we talked about before. That's sort of the traditional music creator. But I've always seen, and all of us have seen, the sort of potential for it to be an amazing platform for composers to be able to collaborate, to utilize sounds, but then also to connect what's going on with Splice to the movie world, the visual media world, the app world. So we're creating a project called Montage, which we're all involved in kind of leading that, which is designed to be Splice's kind of first step into the composing world. And it's going to include a sample label, but it's also going to include albums and full-length tracks that we work directly with musicians as well, to have Splice have, kind of plant a flagpole into, the moods and sounds of, what we see in culture today. And I think one of the great things about Splice too is this really sort of intentional look at inclusivity and trying to create a platform that's really a modern platform. Like, we're not starting from the traditional music industry or the way that things have been done. So when we create a new project like this, we can sort of start from scratch and say, if we're creating a platform for people, what are the things that we want to change about what we see now? And what are the different things that we can do to really empower people? And so, when we look at the composing community and we look at, really music production in general, it isn't the most inclusive area. And we're definitely making a primary intention of this project to provide a platform for people who, and I think even with composing, it's kind of an insular thing anyways. A lot of times people are working on their own. It's not, oftentimes you're working with the band or with a lot of collaborators at times. So bringing more, really highlighting women composers and composers of all different backgrounds is really a key part of this initiative. And it's been really fun to be working with the initial composers with this project that we've started off on. We have about, I think, close to 10 people that we're working with so far. And it really is like a dream project with a lot of the composers, because we're able to say, okay, we want to do this sort of holistic project where there's a sample pack, there's an album, and we want to also try to license the music into film and TV and provide you with a platform. But really, the mood that you're creating can be sort of anything that is a mood or a feeling that is powerful for you. And then what that creates is that everybody has their own aesthetic and way of creating moods. Really, it's really mood based, and there's a really mindfulness component to it as well. Is that, like, when we're talking about moods and emotion, there's really kind of going inwards to figure out what people really want to communicate to the world, and visualizing scenes where the music could work with. So this Montage project has been really exciting. It hasn't launched yet, but we can share a few videos from that project to show how we're kind of going in this sort of direction of really exploring nature, both inner nature and outer nature, and visual media, to create these kind of musical suites that will be on Splice and off Splice. And I think this will be a really great area, both for the AWFC community to utilize these sounds in their productions, but also for us to work with you all in terms of, what are some moods that that you would like to provide for Splice, and how could we maybe work together on projects to provide this platform for everyone here as well. So on that note, I will stop the share again, and I'll share a couple of videos. I know that we're a little bit over a half an hour. I feel like maybe if we share a couple of videos and then we open it up for questions for the last 15 minutes. And we're happy to go a little bit longer if anybody wants to stick on for a few minutes and ask any additional questions.
Awesome job so far, Josh. Just want to chime in and say that.
Thanks, Max. Yeah, there's
no, I know it's like you've been talking for a while, and it's good to get some feedback, but you're doing well.
Okay. There's so much, and I really want everybody to meet everyone here who's sitting up with me too. So I'm excited to get to that portion, but there is a lot to go through in terms of you know, it's a whole new thing that's going on here.
Yeah, I don't mean it in a bad way. No, you're doing great.
Great. So one of the projects we're working on right now is a collaboration with Richard Reed Perry, who's a multi-instrumentalist and part of the band Arcade Fire, and also does his own composing and work, and Susie Ibarra, who has been collaborating with Splice for quite some time. She's done 4 or 5 packs at Splice, and she is incredible. If you don't know who she is, I really want to introduce her to this group as well. She's an amazing composer, experimental percussionist, and she also does a lot of work around using nature and environments as instruments and doing installations and projects around the world in the Himalayas, and also at the Rubin Museum in New York. Just a lot of really cool art projects. So this is a really cool project. I'll let the video speak for itself because it's about 3 minutes and it kind of tells the story about how they collaborated. But basically, Richard had this idea to use their heartbeats as the tempo for their songs. That's always changing and in flux. So he has technology that clips onto his ear that will transmit his heartbeat into a metronome. And so this all happened during the pandemic. Him and Susie never met until just a couple months ago, and Max and I met them in Mass Mocha and for a performance. But this was really special. They used heartbeats and breaths as rhythms as the basis for kind of a really beautiful exploration of sound.
This doesn't quite sound like any other record I've ever heard, which is something that I'm very proud of. There's just a sensibility to it that I think was really enabled by doing it remotely, by not having 2 people in a room. It's the literal breath and the literal heartbeat of 2 people 600 kilometers apart, and that those intimate, internal sounds are then turned into music that then becomes the fabric of sample packs that then becomes built on and creates an album. It's like you have this whole soup of kind of like intimacy and interconnection over a distance brought together via this format. And I think it's a great, I think it's a really cool, great new step to make a record that also then exists as component pieces that people can, because they're really interesting sounding and beautiful sounding layers, and to be able to have that access, that's just kind of a new thing. That's a bit of a new paradigm,
It's going to be interesting what they hear in it, right? So I would hope that they could find places that it could create or evoke certain kinds of emotions or feelings that would be useful in that way if they're creating that sonic world, especially for something visual. It's something that I never would have thought how music could travel, and that it would arrive in a new place and be completely different music, completely different genre that I may not have thought of. And especially exciting when it's a lot of new up-and-coming young artists that are making their new music. They're making the connections. And
little technical difficulties here.
They're making the connections, and we're connecting the threads of all of this music that's telling these stories and going through our different artwork. I love that. That's something that has only happened to me since I've been making sound packs with Splice. That's something really powerful about art. And you can make that innate connection.
play another couple videos here real quick.
And I play the note, I exhale. We're putting our life force into the instrument. So we've been out here in Utah for a few days, Salt Lake City, and it's gorgeous out here. And I've never been in a session like this before. Usually I go in, it's a job. This is a job too, sure, professional. But usually you go into the session, you're going to make a product for a client. As when we're working here, it's so much more of a holistic approach. Everything from loops, one-shots, phrases, big, small. Not only are we making content for sample packs, we're also producing full-length tracks with many versions and variations. And we're leaving nothing behind. Nothing's gonna be wasted here. Nothing's gonna be left on the cutting room floor. We're gonna take everything and turn it into something. There are really so many different ways that we can create content musically. It's really limitless. And that's been one of the most fascinating things about working with Splice. The door is wide open. I think it's just the beginning for what this could mean for the music business, for artists. I tell people right away, if they're young and starting out, I said, start thinking about all the different ways that you can be creative. And they say, what do you mean? And I start telling them about what's going on here. Music saved my life, and it's important for me to help people through music see how maybe it can help them in their lives too. Maybe through showing all of these characters that we're all familiar with, that we all know. So when you hear the song, you can picture it in your mind. And maybe it gives you something to hold on to, you know?
Such a calm, serene voice.
Yeah.
Like when he speaks, he just like grounds everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a Mr. Rogers vibe, right? And this is Hadass. Hadass and I worked on this project together, and this is a beautiful video. I'll just share a couple minutes of this, and then we can open up to some conversations. But I think these three will just give a sense of three of the different kind of moods that we've created through these montage projects. This is an album, kind of a preview of some of the tracks that Hadass and I worked on. And we've recruited Catherine to sing some vocals over that, which we're really excited to incorporate into it. So it's fun how a lot of these projects start as collaborations, you know, like a normal collaboration where you bring in a singer and you bring in somebody else into the studio. and then we can then open that collaboration up to basically the whole world to be able to utilize the component pieces of it and make their own music with it. So I know we went well over time on the demo, but hopefully that was a good broad overview of what we're up to. I know there's a lot there. So we're excited to open it up to any questions and hear what you all have to think.
This was great. Thank you so much.